Big moment out of the Vatican. History was made, white smoke billowed, and a new chapter for the Catholic Church officially began. For the first time in over 2,000 years, the new pope is American. Yep, the College of Cardinals has spoken, and they chose Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost from Chicago, Illinois, now known as Pope Leo XIV, to lead the world's 1.3 billion Catholics. A man from the Midwest now holds one of the most powerful spiritual roles on earth, and all it took was, just a few millennia of European popes. This is not just a plot twist, this is a whole new season. Now, let's be clear, Pope Leo XIV isn't just notable because he's American. He's also the first member of the Augustinian order to become pope, a branch of the church focused on community, education, and a vow of simplicity. Translation: he's probably the only pope in history who once carried folding chairs for a potluck and graded papers at 1 a.m. So how did we get here? Let's rewind to the beginning of the week. The papal conclave, the ultra-secretive vote held inside the Sistine Chapel, convened after the previous pope's unexpected resignation due to health concerns. The conclave doesn't allow phones, press, or even talking. Cardinals are literally locked inside until they decide on the next pope, which honestly is a strategy more startup founders should consider when trying to name their companies. And after just 4 ballots, the smoke turned white, signaling that a decision had been made. Then came the announcement in Latin, Habemus Papam. We have a pope, and the name Leo, Pope Leo XIV. Now, for those keeping score at home, this makes him the 14th pope named Leo, but the first one named Leo who can pronounce deep dish without irony. So who is this guy? Robert Prevost was born in Chicago in 1955. He was ordained a priest in 1982 and spent many years serving in Peru, eventually becoming the Bishop of Chiclayo. So yes, the first American pope doesn't just speak Spanish fluently, he lived in Latin America for decades, and he's no stranger to international diplomacy or the ground-level issues facing the global south. That alone makes him stand out. He's not just some bureaucrat who climbed the Vatican ladder, he's a bridge builder, a listener, someone who's seen what faith looks like in places where clean water is still a prayer request, and now he's stepping into one of the most complicated jobs on earth, leading a deeply divided, aging institution that still wields enormous influence. Let's talk about the reaction. In the US, predictably, reactions have ranged from, "This is a proud moment for American Catholics," to, "Oh no, the Pope's gonna start quoting Springsteen," which, honestly, wouldn't be mad. Globally, the Catholic Church has been in need of relevance, and this move, it's bold. It sends a message. The Vatican is willing to look beyond Europe. It's recognizing that the future of Catholicism isn't just in Rome or Madrid or Paris. It's in Manila, in Sao Paulo, in Kinshasa, in Los Angeles. The Church is growing in the global South and struggling in the global North. Choosing someone who's lived in both is smart, strategic even. But the real question is, what kind of leader will Pope Leo be? From his first public address, he made it clear, peace, reconciliation, and renewal are his priorities. He specifically mentioned calls for ceasefires in Gaza and Ukraine. That's a big deal. He didn't start with doctrine or division. He started with humanity, and that tracks with his past. In Peru, he was known as someone who worked directly with the poor, who focused on education, healthcare access, and interfaith dialogue. Not exactly the stuff that earns headlines in the Vatican gossip columns, but pretty crucial when your job is literally shepherd of souls. He's also walking into a church with major generational and cultural divides. On one side, progressive Catholics pushing for reform, more inclusion, recognition of LGBTQ+ Catholics, expanded roles for women in leadership, and a re-examination of celibacy rules. On the other, traditionalists who see even guitar music at Mass as an affront to God. This Pope? He seems to know he's not going to please everyone, but if his past is any indicator, he'll prioritize humility, dialogue, and actual service, not performance. That's a sharp contrast to some of the louder voices in American Catholicism, particularly those who've fused faith with nationalism. You know the types: crucifix in one hand, let's go Brandon flag in the other. For them, this pope might be a little too nuanced. And that's good, because here's the thing: the Catholic Church isn't supposed to be a political party. It's not supposed to endorse candidates, own gun ranges, or sell "Blessed are the Boomers" merch at the parish bake sale. It's supposed to care for the vulnerable, the sick, the imprisoned, the refugee, the ignored, the poor. You know, the people Jesus talked about when he wasn't flipping tables and clapping back at hypocrites. And Pope Leo seems to get that. He's not flashy, he's not loud. But he's clear, and in a time when so many leaders seem desperate to go viral, that alone makes him feel radical. Now let's talk symbolism. The name Leo isn't random. The last Pope Leo, Leo XIII, reigned in the late 1800s and was known for a groundbreaking document on workers' rights and economic justice. By choosing Leo, Pope Prevost may be signaling a return to those themes: dignity of labor, fair wages, just systems, maybe even a critique of unregulated capitalism. And coming from an American, that's a bold flex. It also creates a unique tension. Because let's be real, America exports a lot of things: fast food, military bases, Marvel movies. But we've never exported a pope. This is new territory. And while Pope Leo is, yes, American, he's not a flag-waving, USA chanting pope. He's not draped in the stars and stripes. He's more complicated than that. He's Midwestern, Latin American, multilingual, quietly bold, and he just might be what the church needs right now. A reminder that leadership doesn't have to be loud to be transformative. Of course, it won't be easy. The Catholic Church is facing one of its most challenging eras. Abuse scandals continue to haunt the institution. Membership is declining in the US and Europe. Young people are leaving in droves, citing hypocrisy, irrelevance, and rigidity. And let's not forget the digital age, where conspiracy theories spread faster than communion wafers. Pope Leo won't solve all of that. No one person could, but he brings with him a humility and calm that might at least create space for listening, for healing, for a kind of faith that isn't afraid to confront its own failures. He'll also have to contend with politics. Big time, because in case you haven't noticed, the intersection of faith and politics isn't exactly subtle these days. From U.S. bishops arguing over who gets to take communion to European populists using Christianity as a branding tool, the church is often treated like a weapon rather than a sanctuary. And here comes Pope Leo, a man who spent his life doing the quiet work, the patient work, now being thrust into the global spotlight where every word he says will be parsed, memed, weaponized, and spun into headlines. But maybe that's the point. Maybe we don't need another cultural warrior in a cassock. Maybe we need a leader who actually believes in the Beatitudes, who remembers that Jesus didn't say, "Blessed are the influencers," or "Blessed are those with good PR." He said, "Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Pope Leo might not fix everything, but he might just remind us what this was all supposed to be about. Not power, not pageantry, not politics. People, faith, hope, and love, the kind that shows up in quiet corners, in the places where nobody's watching, in the work that doesn't trend. So yeah, it's a new era, an American pope, a new name, a new chapter, and a whole lot of questions about where the church goes from here. But for now, for this moment, we get to watch history unfold. We get to imagine new possibilities. And we get to hope, just a little, that the Vatican's next move isn't about keeping power, but about using it to lift up the people who need it most. Because if that's what Pope Leo XIV is about, then maybe, just maybe, this is the kind of American leadership the world could actually use more of.